I'm Ralph Grizzle, the avid cruiser. For more than 2 decades, I've cruised the 7 seas on some of the world's most luxurious ships. I write about my experiences on avidcruiser.com. My goal is to help people like you make informed decisions about your cruise vacations. Join me today in an exciting new mini-series as I explore the most popular cruise destinations around the world. My name is Ralph Grizzle, and I am the Avid Cruiser. The name of this town was derived from the island behind me. Kusadasi, or Bird Island, is a great place to stroll around, sit at a street cafe, or do some shopping. But most people come here because this is the gateway to the antiquities. Before we head out to see those, let's take a quick look around Kusadasi. Kusadasi is a resort town pulsing with life. In ancient times, it was a small port popular among trading vessels along the Aegean coast. The town existed in the shadow of the great city of Ephesus, until the harbor silted up and Ephesus began to lose its prominence. Today, Kusadasi is the gateway to Ephesus and other attractions in the region. It's also a pleasant place to enjoy the seaside atmosphere before or after your tours of the ancient sites available to you when your ship calls on Kusadasi. This is ancient Ephesus. It's one of the most remarkable historical and archaeological sites in the world. In fact, it's still being excavated and there's much to be discovered here. The Greeks were the first to settle here, but what we're looking at today is primarily a Roman city. It was an important commercial harbor, which you may find odd because the sea is more than 5 kilometers away. As many as 50,000 people had lived here during the Roman period, but the citizens began to abandon Ephesus when the harbor dried up and Ephesus lost its access to the Aegean Sea. Today, what you'll find in Ephesus are Roman ruins such as theaters, temples, monuments, and other remnants from the days of Roman rule. I could practically envision a busy city by the harbor with people going about their business. Today, despite the tourists, Ephesus echoes voices of an ancient history. These are the terrace houses, and this is where the wealthy people in Ephesus used to live. The remarkable thing about it is that the restoration is still taking place. Like putting together a puzzle, historians have been able to piece together how people lived in ancient Ephesus. I entered the terrace houses to discover how the wealthy lived in this great city. Their homes were multi-roomed apartments with mosaics and frescoes that gave impressions of their lifestyles. When you walk the marble road, you're treading similar ground as Antony and Cleopatra did when they honeymooned here before the birth of Christ. A settlement had already been here for a few thousand years even before they came. I made my way to the most glorious of buildings at Ephesus, the Celsus Library. This massive complex with its great acoustics is a theater. It could hold more than 20,000 people who came to see Roman drama, gladiators fighting, and the biblical figure Paul actually preached to the people of Ephesus here. This is Miletus. It was once a great maritime empire, one of the most important cities in all of Ionia. Because of its harbor and its location on the trade routes, this was an important commercial center. And also because of that, it was invaded many times, primarily by the Persians. But it wasn't the invasions that destroyed Miletus. It was the silting of the river Meander. The harbor disappeared, there was no access to the ocean, and all we have left today are these ruins. I felt as though I were stepping back thousands of years when I walked into the Grand Theater in Miletus. I could imagine gladiators battling lions here. Like an abandoned town in the American West, Miletus seems to echo with ghosts of the past and its once mighty monuments. Nearby, I visited the Archaeological Museum, where I learned how Miletus formed the basis of civic planning for all Roman cities. Once the most powerful of the cities in this region, Miletus still holds secrets in its ancient ruins. This is a place where you have to use your imagination. To my left is the Greek Temple of Artemis. It was a beautiful structure, and today only a single column remains. And it is one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Behind me was the Basilica of St. John, and this is where the biblical figure John came to live and to write the book of Revelation. Now, this was all part of Ephesus. When the Turks took over Ephesus in the 1300s, they built the Isa Bey Mosque. The Isa Bey Mosque was constructed in the 1300s. I was told that much of the mosque was constructed from columns and stones found in the ruins of Ephesus and the nearby Temple of Artemis. The mosque is one of the oldest works of architectural art remaining from the times of the Anatolian kingdoms. The Basilica of St. John marks the spot where the Apostle John spent his final years. Author of the Bible's Book of Revelation, he's said to have lived to the age of 100. His tomb is thought to have been placed under the central dome in the basilica. Construction of the church began in about 536, and it's just one of the many ancient sites in this region of Turkey. My next stop was an ancient Greek sanctuary in Didyma, more than an hour away from Ephesus. The Temple of Apollo is distinguished by its massive columns. I enjoyed walking what was once the home to the most renowned oracle of the Hellenic world outside of Delphi. The Temple of Apollo was once connected to Miletus via the Sacred Way, a pilgrimage road spanning about 17 kilometers. Turkey's impressive ruins humbled me in ways that I had not imagined. This little stone house behind me is the Virgin Mary's house. It's the house where the mother of Jesus is said to have spent the last years of her life. It was discovered in the 19th century using descriptions by a Roman Catholic nun. Now, today it's a Catholic shrine and several popes have visited, but since it is a holy place, we can't show you the inside, but we can show you the outside. This is a lovely village, friendly people, colorful markets, and a taste of the rural life in Turkey. Now, the odd thing about this village is that when freed Greek slaves came here, they tried to hide their presence here by calling it ugly so that no one would come. In the 1920s, the Turkish government renamed it to what it is, Sarinja, which means sweet, pleasant, or beautiful. Sarinja is one of the most charming and authentic villages that I've ever visited. It took me back to the time when I was backpacking around the world during my 20s. The narrow streets featured colorful markets with lots of exotic items and craftspeople doing their work. It was fun to watch. I strolled around the market for about 30 minutes or so and went to the food market and looked at some of the herbs and spices, conversed with the people a bit, and then I had an ice cream, which was a lot of fun. If you haven't tried Turkish ice cream, you need to put that on your list. I was invited to have lunch in a local home. Our host greeted us in the market and motioned for us to walk up a small cobblestone street and into a small entryway where we removed our shoes and entered into the owner's small home. It was absolutely charming. We had lunch in a small upstairs room with beautiful views and a delicious spread of food. Our host did not speak English, which actually added to the charm, but our guide did, and he translated for us as we asked questions. What was it like to live here? She said she would not want to live anywhere else. Where did the vegetables come from? My garden, she said. Do you have children? Yes, a son and a daughter. Lunch was delicious, with fresh vegetables from the garden and dishes prepared with other locally produced products. Of all that I experienced from Kusadasi, the lunch in the local home was certainly one of the highlights, and I highly recommend it for a memorable experience. A lot of people come to Kusadasi, they visit Ephesus and they think they're done. But as you can see, there's a lot more to experience. And I encourage you to come check it out for yourself. I'm Ralph Grizzle, and I'll see you in the next beautiful destination.